Hello, story number 19. Hey, I've upgraded. I got some technology. All right, story number 19 is about angry spirits that were in the woods. I just moved into this place a little over a year ago. So this has to do with a place I lived in before I moved here. So these are recent. Somebody asked me if these things still happen to me. Yes, they do. They've happened to me my whole life. And pray as I may, it's just part of my life. You have a gift. I don't know if I'd call it a gift. A condition that I don't understand or know how to use, maybe. That's another story on that whole thing when you've got a life of these things. And some of you do as well. I'm not the only one. So this is more recent. This happened up a year ago at the place I lived in. The place I lived in, you're going to be hearing about that because I think it's going to take me about 3 of these videos just to cover that place. So I'll start with the outside perimeter because more things happened outside that are a whole different story. Pretty exceptional things. Really, right? I've had a spirit come out of a tree right up to my face. And, yeah, that was a pretty peculiar piece of land. And the place I'm talking about is Sempronius, New York. And I lived on Franklin Road, which is off Big Hill Road, which is off Dresserville Road. And my point is, it was a very remote place. It was a back road off a back road off a back road. Beautiful area, rolling hills, hardwood trees, maples and oaks, very beautiful in the fall. Streams and fox and deer and geese. Oh, it's just a gorgeous area. And just a little history on this area. The Iroquois Indians lived here before the whites came. The Cayugas actually lived here. They were part of the Iroquois tribe. And they sided with the British during the Revolutionary War. And of course, the British lost that and went home for the most part. Some of them didn't. And the Indians had to leave. They sided with the wrong team and their team lost. And they had to pack up and move to reservations or go to Canada. Some of them stayed. In fact, I know some Indian people that say their ancestors have lived here all the time. And then the whites came. These were the soldiers that served in General Washington's Continental Army. And, everybody knows he was kind of out of money when he was fighting that war. So he promised them all parcels of land. A lot in upstate New York, where I live. The problem is, Indians were on that land. Well, the Indians sided with the wrong team, like I said. So they left. There wasn't a big battle or anything. They packed up and left. They went to reservations or they went to Canada. And then the Continental soldiers, Washington made good on that, pledge to give them parcels of really good farmland. And they all started moving in to where I live. And they're all buried around here too, Revolutionary War soldiers. So, what am I getting at? This plays into this a little bit, the history of the land, because the land where my trailer was on, where this story happened, I didn't know it at the time. And this is part of another story, the Indian connection. But a friend of mine whose family lived here a long time told me his grandfather told him that the Indians buried their dead where I lived. And they wouldn't bother you, but they did bury their dead there. And this is a different story. That piece of land where my trailer was on, this junky single-wide trailer, really nasty trailer I lived in. But it was cheap, and my landlord was a really cool guy, him and his wife. And the land around it was beautiful, and I was all on my own, I used to tell people, you can laugh at me, call me a hillbilly, whatever you want. Hey, I live so remote, I could just step right out of my back porch in a buff and take a rifle and shoot beer cans off the fence post. Not that I ever did that. It was a joke I had going on. That's how remote I was, just woods. There used to be a farmhouse on there from about the 1860s to about the 1950s. I think it burned down. And the people in that were buried up the road about maybe 3/4 of a mile, Sandhill Cemetery. I was able to track down all this on the internet. Even one guy, how they died. There's so much you can find on the internet if you dig. After that, there was a couple of trailers on that land that burned down due to arson. And I don't know when that happened. I can't find anything on it. My former landlord told me this. And then they put my trailer on that land. And so I'll get to the story. Sorry, I digress. But I like to give some background information, the setting. So I had a huge yard, about 2-3 acres, grass, a tomato patch. I worked in the end of it. And all surrounded by woods. So there's 3 spirits, all right? One I didn't see, one another person saw, and I'll just relate this briefly because there's something that happened to me tied to it. When I first moved in there, a friend of mine, a woman friend, was visiting, and we're inside, and I said to her, hey, can you go call my cat? You know, I had a cat, it was outside. Go out there and call my cat, and she said, yeah, sure. She's going out the front porch, and she said something, and I said, do you see my cat? And she says, no, but I see a freaking ghost. And she was hysterical, right? Hysterical, sorry. I'm gonna remake this for that boo-boo. She was hysterical, and she said, there's a freaking ghost in your yard. This is her talking. And I said, get out of here. You know, I didn't want to hear that, you know. Believe it or not, I can be a skeptic. That's pretty hard. Isn't that something, huh? I can be skeptical. She says, no, there's a freaking ghost in your yard. And I get out of here, and she came inside. She was pretty upset. She said a woman in a white dress came out of the woods, walked across my yard, and went right across the street and back up into the woods across the street. And I didn't tell her I didn't believe her. I said, wow, all right. You know, and she was really upset. She got in her car and left. So I'm sitting there by myself, and there was like a soda bottle, a plastic cap off a soda bottle sitting in front of me. And I'm sitting there by myself. Nobody else is in the house. And the cat's still outside. And this thing just in front of me just went, picked right up and just flew off. Right. You get the idea. Like a string was attached to it, and somebody, you know, and I'm like, whoa. And I said some prayers, Lord, protect me, Lord Jesus, be around me. And I usually said some things like, this house belongs to Jesus Christ, and things like that, you know, and say some prayer for protections. You're not welcome here. That sort of stuff. And then I just let it be because I got to live there. So that's that one ghost, but that's a bonus, because when I was going to tell this, it's about 2 men that were just inside my wood line. And one man was extremely angry. Raging angry. And he's the first one I heard of these 2 men. This happened about 2 or 3 years ago, the first time. And I'm outside. I think I was mowing the lawn. And just inside the woods, it would have been maybe 50 feet away from me, this guy starts raging. And he's saying, I won't do it, you mother beep, beep, beep. I will not swear on there because it offends some people. But half of what this guy was saying was profanity. In between, he would say, I won't do it. You can't make me do it. I won't do it. And just at the top of a raging, screaming lunatic, angry. Like I got that he was crying. He was so angry. I won't do it. You mother. This and that, right? You can't make me do it. Guy going nuts. And I should have seen him. He sounded pretty close. And I'm like, whoa, wow. I just listened to him. Somebody's going off on it. And what did I do? I went in the house. I was kind of scared. I got a ball bat. I didn't have a gun. And I went out there looking for the guy, nervous, and I didn't hear him anymore at this point. I looked on the road. There's nobody on the road, no cars parked, nobody anywhere. Nobody in the woods. I would have seen him in the woods. There's nobody around. And at that point, I thought, it sounded like a haunting. Because I'll tell you something I've learned through the years of all these things happening. I've heard spirits like that, angry. I've heard spirits crying more than once. And when they do emotion, it comes out really powerful. And I think that's because we have filters. When I talk to you, I could be laughing, crying, I could be angry. You're going to have to see it with eyes and ears of flesh and assimilate it, and I'm going to have to communicate it through the flesh. So we have like fleshly filters of flesh between us. When a spirit displays emotion, they don't have that. They don't have that fleshly filter that we have. And I think you might be hearing them with your spirit too, but it can come through pretty profoundly intense. And this man was, I've heard people rage. I've heard my brother rage. I've raged a few times in my life, and I've heard men go off in a rage, and women too for that matter. And I've never heard anybody this angry before. So, skip forward a couple of years, 2 years, maybe a year or two later, I'm outside with my girlfriend, and I had a big vegetable garden with peppers and tomatoes and all that, squash growing. And in the same place, this time even closer because I was closer to the wood line, that same guy, raging. I mean, the same things. I won't do it, you mother, and you can't make me do it. I won't do it. You can't make me do it. That's what he was saying. And then that was just profanity, like angry, powerful profanity. And I pictured sound like a guy maybe 30. I pictured some guy like in tears and all sweaty and just raging like somebody dangerous. So I got my car this time. I said to her, I said, that's him. She heard him. I said, that's the guy I was telling you about. I said, he's saying the same stuff from the same place. I got my car and drove up my driveway and around. There's nobody on the road. Looked around the woods. There's nobody in the woods. Nobody anywhere. And by the time I got to my car, and I told her, you go in the house, because I didn't know it might be some deranged person. And I went out and looked around for him, and there was nobody. So that was the end of that. One other time I heard another man in those woods, and it was probably the most recent of that time. It was a different man. Sounded like an older man. And I got out of my car. I was coming home from work, and it was probably 5 p.m. or thereabouts. And as soon as I set foot outside the car, there was a man in the same area, the same woods portion of, same area, off by my vegetable garden right in the woods. This guy says, please, sir, he's calling me sir, get help. Sir, get help, please, sir. Get help, sir, please. And he kept saying that, please, sir, get help. And I thought somebody was hurt in my woods. I didn't think ghost. That was weird. He's calling me sir, or somebody's calling for help. Sir, get help, please, sir, get help. Sir, please. And I'm standing outside my car. Where is he? I'm looking all, please, sir, get up. I said, I can't help you if I can't see you. Where are you? I yell out, where are you? Tell me, where are you? This guy sounded like he really needed help. I didn't hear anything after that. Yeah, I didn't hear anything after that. I went looking. I went running. This time I didn't feel threatened. I went running looking to see. I thought somebody was in my woods, maybe a hunter or something, But there was nobody in the woods. There was nobody anywhere. So that's the story of the three spirits in the woods. There's actually a fourth, And that is a story of its own. And that happened fairly recently, a couple, 2 or 3 years ago. Has to do with a woman in a tree and a hawk, a white hawk. That's a whole nother story. These woods. I'll say one thing. Well, I think I already said there was other properties on there. I'm not sure if I covered it. I did some research. Yeah, I did cover it. There was a farmhouse that burned down in the 50s. No trace of it, but a foundation. My former landlord, told me there were 2 trailers that were there that had arson. They burned down. I don't know anything more. I couldn't find anything about that. Then there was my place. And then here's that there were Indians buried their dead there. So when I first moved there, I cut with my lawnmower and out with a hatchet, cut a trail through the woods, about maybe 100 yards or so, up to this really beautiful clearing that overlooked. It was on a hilltop. My place was on a hilltop. You had this pristine view of the most gorgeous fields and rolling hills, and yeah, just gorgeous. And I used to think, well, I think I'm going to put a picnic table back here and maybe a little fire pit, and it just nothing but views of sky and hills and deer, fox, turkey, all kinds of wildlife all over the place, ducks, everything around there. Well, I got the feeling real soon that I wasn't exactly welcome in those woods, and that's when I first moved in there. This story's about the woods. And so I used to go back there, but I used to get the heebie-jeebies a bit. I didn't feel like I was in danger. I just felt like I was trespassing. And so I didn't use the trail for a while. Then I went again to use the trail to go get some firewood. And I found that one tree was a big tree, had uprooted and fell right across. If this was a trail, that fell, massive tree just fell. And I don't know why, it's a pretty big healthy tree. Another tree fell and blocked the trail. And then another tree and yet another tree. 4 trees had fallen and blocked the trail, the path that I'd made. And I said, well, I guess that makes it official. I'm not wanted back here. And I said, okay, I'll stay out of the woods. I'll live in mine. They can have theirs. What else? I think that's it. I used to do a lot of praying when I lived there about 9 years. I always prayed. I'd say the Hail Marys. I'd say the Lord's Prayer. I'd be driving home praying like crazy. I'd envision, I had a Catholic friend of mine, she said, when you pray, envision God's light coming from heaven like a ray and just covering your place and flooding everything with God's light. And just picture that in your head while you're praying to God for protection from things. And I did that. Of things that were outside, there was the things I told you about. There was a black mass that not only I saw, my friend saw it as well. I never mentioned it. This is a story about the things outside of my place. I'll get into the other stories in another one. There was a black mass. It was pretty big. I don't know, bigger than a person. About as big as a car, small car. Kind of nebulous, just like a sooty cloud. Used to circle my place a lot. I've seen it a lot. One time, somebody was in my place with me. It was lunch, beautiful daylight. We were having lunch. It was lunchtime, sunny day. And my car was parked right outside the window in the kitchen. This person's talking my head off. And they're making lunch, right? And I'm just looking out the window. For once, I always talk a lot. This person talks a lot. I'm kind of listening to him, but I'm kind of just looking out the window. And the black mass came, and it came between, if this was my car parked outside the window, it came between me and the car, and enough that, it blotted out the view of the car, if this was a car. And my friend's talking my head off, and that person stopped. Right when that black mass crossed in front of the window, right, she just stopped. And I knew she'd seen it, and I said, "What's up?" And she said, "I saw something." And I said, tell me what you saw. She said, something black moved across there. I said, yeah, I saw it too. I see that often here. And that was seen there. What else was there? A dog, spirit of a dog. Never saw it, heard it. I really heard it, man. Like it's right in front of you. It sounded like a dog getting, like in its death throes, yelping, like you got hit by a car or something, mortally wounded. And I jumped out. I said, wow, my dog's right there with me. There's nothing around. I'm not the only one that heard that. So that's the land around there, except for one story, the woman in a tree. And I'm saving that for a story of its own. I've got a lot of these stories to put out. And I've given it a lot of thought, and I've mentioned it in a couple videos, whether I should put these paranormal stories out or not. And I've decided to do it. And at the end, when I'm done putting these stories out, I've got some things I want to discuss. And I try to leave my own opinions out as much as possible. But based upon my experiences, based upon doctrine, Christian doctrine, the Bible, the Catholic Church, the Protestant churches, based upon those sources, my own experiences, and my own thoughts, I've made some observations and come to some conclusions. And I came to one conclusion about something that I think, to me, I think it's significant. So I will let you know what that is. There'll be some discussions when I'm done with these paranormal stories. And I've got a lot of them. I mean, I'll tell them all. Some of them are pretty mundane, some of them aren't. And so we'll get to that when we get to it. Yeah, my son, he told me that I need to upgrade my technology. So he says, Dad, you're very minimalistic with these videos. You need some technology. So I looked up and I seen, well, he said, you need to get yourself a mic, maybe some video editing software. And he suggested some stuff. It's like $250. I'm like, I remembered, well, I happen to have a mic. Been around for a while, but let's see how it works. So, all right, I'm just having fun with these at this point, but I've got a lot more stories coming, God willing. So, take care. Thank you. And I hope I'm doing the right thing with this.